Emma, and I just want to say thank you, Matthew, for asking me to speak. I want to talk about something that's kind of hard, but it's so thankful I get to talk about it. It's a little bit emotional, but have you ever had somebody who just always lit up your day, never failed to make you feel so grateful, just constant smile on your face? That's who my grandma was for me. She loved all the children in this church, and she still does. You might not have known her, but she definitely knew you. I never understood why every Sunday she was like so excited to be around such loud and crazy kids. She adored you all. She loved all of God's children like they were her own. Through her lifetime, she worked at a school for the blind and deaf. She helped at this really cool and unique, it was like a cutting-edge children's facility that took care of kids that needed full-time medical care because they had such severe disabilities and needs. She found happiness in children, and she knew everyone was just as important as the next. She also found peace working as a kindergarten teacher for the handicapped. She adored all kinds of people, and not just people, but animals too. My grandpa was a game warden in Florida. He worked at a state park for a while, and he always found injured or orphaned animals. My mom explained her childhood house is more like a zoo with birds, and their favorite were when he'd bring home baby owls in boxes. They had squirrels on couches, and at times alligators in their bathtub, or the snakes that were left in my mom's car. The story I'll never forget about is this baby fawn my grandpa found limping on the side of the road. I guess she had gotten hit by a car, and they couldn't find her mom, so he decided that he was going to bring her to the vet, and they got a pink, cute little cast for her, and he decided he was going to take her home. And so, of course, Grandma fell in love with this fawn. She ended up naming her Baby. Baby followed her around, making sure she never left my grandma's side. My grandma bottle fed her till she was too big to live in the house. Of course, not wanting to let her go and knowing Baby's love for humans, they decided that my grandfather knows a bunch of people through Disney, and they wanted to send her somewhere happy. And so Baby is now living in Disney's private man-made island and animal preserve. She's always like that. That's who my grandma Leah was. She cared for all of God's creatures. I feel that anybody who knows her can agree she's a light. Grandma Leah was so passionate in helping others. It was impossible to be anything but humble around her. Leah was just utterly and totally selfless. My grandma was one of my best friends and a teacher in many things growing up. She lived with us for a while, and I still don't ever believe that I got enough time with her. To say I could put down in words or on a piece of paper her most beautiful qualities would be a lie. Her and my mother are the strongest women I've ever met. That being said, it was so hard to see them struggle and cope with such a bad disease. For anybody who doesn't know what ALS is, it's a very rare condition. It has no cure. It is a progressive neurological disease, and it affects the nerve cells in the brain and the spinal cord. We have this nervous system that protects our muscles so we can continue to be strong. But when the nervous system is sick, our motor neurons, which are, I kind of like to think of them as bodybuilders, and if anybody who knows a bodybuilder knows they literally cannot live without working out. So when they don't know what to do with themselves, they start to become weak, and it gets harder and harder, and they eventually die. And it got harder and harder for my grandmother. It got harder for her to walk. It got harder eventually for her to breathe. It was a tough battle, but I like to think she won it, because for 6 years is how much longer she got to live for what she was given. At times, it was extremely hard to be positive, but she always continued to smile every day. She was stronger than me. She stayed so grateful. I don't know how she did it. It was tough when I lost her. I definitely let anger and confusion blur everything else she had been teaching me. I wanted answers. I stayed down on myself, and it was hard to be grateful the way she wanted me to be. There's a story in the Bible that I feel helps put things in another perspective, for myself at least. It's actually one of my favorite stories. It holds so many meanings. I've kind of found like a personal connection through it. The story is from Exodus, and it's the story of Moses and the burning bush. Many of you have probably heard the story of Moses leading the Israelites out of Egypt, but you probably don't know about Moses' start. Moses grew up as a prince among the Egyptians. He was in line to become a pharaoh, which is like a king in Egypt. He was pretty much top dog growing up, until Moses made a huge mistake, and he had to escape to pretty much keep his own life. He traveled far and for many years. He eventually stopped and became in charge of his stepfather Jethro's sheep. His days consisted of leading his flock that wasn't even his to the west side of the wilderness. When I read this at times, I feel a relationship to Moses. I could see myself in his footsteps. I had this perception on my life, and I felt like I had everything going for me. I have an amazing family. I had an amazing grandmother. She was always there for me. She made a life worth living for, and she loved everything about it. She made sure I was happy and healthy. So after we lost her, I wasn't sure what to do. I took it hard on myself. I walked without purpose. I hung my head, as I imagined Moses did. I could barely tend to the sheep around me. My perception got littler every day without having her to fill that space. This story of Moses and the burning bush is so unique because Moses gets to experience God multiple times in such pure forms. This is the first time, though. Everybody has a start, and this is Moses' start. He sees this bush engulfed in flames, but not burning. He turns aside to get a look at this remarkable thing, and from inside the bush is an angel of the Lord calling out to him, "Moses, Moses, do not come near. Take your sandals off your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground." The burning bush serves as a theophany, which is an appearance of God in a form that is visible to man. This is the first time the Bible uses the word holy in reference to God. At the burning bush, God revealed his holiness in a way it had never been revealed before. Moses was so awed by this, he hid his face. He was scared. God's powers are meant to be scary, but we can all relate to Moses. Having somebody or something come into your life so quickly can be scary because it's out of our comfort zones. Not seeing her every day was out of my comfort zone. I think God's impacts on life are transformative and tend to be so strong. We're inclined to push them away. What is good before letting it intrude into our own personal zones? During this time period, I've been driving to one of my father's places in Tennessee with him. When he told me about a quote he tends to remind himself about frequently. It's that perception is a reality, and what you make of it is what changes it. It attempts to try to remind myself that just because I was in a low place, it didn't mean I needed to stay there. And at any moment, I could take that positive step forward. At the time, I was becoming somebody who wasn't excited about school. I didn't want to talk to people much. I was so ready to go home. I needed to take that step. I just didn't feel like I had something pushing me towards it, until I did. God is ready to send Moses on his way. He says to him, "Come, I will send you to Pharaoh, that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt." But Moses says to God, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt?" Moses didn't believe in himself. Sometimes I don't always believe in myself. Grandma Leah gave me that encouraging push to step up and be strong, just like God did for Moses. I've always had people who were there for me in more physical ways. Matthew and Mike always encouraged me to come to youth. Maggie and Eunice are so full of advice and hugs. I could go on all day about the people who are constantly there for me. I can't be who my beautiful grandmother was, just like Moses can't be God. But I can work at the hands and the feet of her just like he did. The compliment I love the most is when I hear, "Your grandmother would be so proud of you." I want people to be able to see her through me. Everything comes back to this quote about what people perceive is usually what they believe. It also reminds me of the quote that says, If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. This takes me back to the story of Moses and the burning bush. It makes me so strongly believe that the bush wasn't just burning for Moses. It was burning for anybody to see. It's on you after that to make what is of the burning bush. Even if you hadn't had a loss like this, I know there's always days in the week that you just don't even want to get up. You don't want to do the day. It's so easy to lose track of all that we're being offered every day. The burning bush burns all around me. The burning bush is out there for all of you to see. And just because my perception became clear, I realized who I want to become. And I don't think I would have ever been as ready as I am right now if I hadn't got to experience this. My grandmother inspires me. I'm grateful. She had people who inspired her. That doesn't mean that I don't still have people who change my life every day. All it took was a little push of motivation, and everything I do is clear. I know what I want to aspire to become. I can't wait for every step of the way. I want to worship in God instead of like my grandmother would be doing down here. Let the burning bush become, because it's so easy to take a moment and find the motivation to go on. I hope you all can take a step back to realize and focus on all the good that surrounds us. Please pray with me. God, open up our eyes to you and to those of people who shine your light. Let us not hide our faces, but let us conquer any low. Let us embrace what you've given and give us the power to be the light for others. Amen.